Meet entrepreneur, author, and award-winning professor Craig Wortman. Three-time CEO and entrepreneur Craig Wortman inspires and delights audiences all over the world on the topics of entrepreneurship and selling, storytelling, and leadership, bringing them to life through the powerful stories he tells. Craig is the founder and CEO of Sales Engine, a firm that helps companies build and tune their sales engine. He's the author of What's Your Story?, a book that teaches leaders and sales professionals how to use stories to connect, inspire, and overachieve. Craig is a clinical professor at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, where he teaches entrepreneurial selling, ranked by Inc. magazine as one of the top 10 courses in the United States. Craig is a storyteller. Craig uses stories everywhere he goes. From selling a service or product to building and leading a company, stories can and should be the foundation of any conversation. Craig explores the power of story with audiences all over the world, helping leaders of all kinds capture, distill, and tell their stories with impact. Stories carry two key components that allow leaders to influence people: context and emotion. By going beyond facts and data and providing your audience with a different way to see the solution, leaders will always set themselves apart. And Craig helps leaders learn how to do just that. An emotional connection is not easy to establish, but Craig will show you how telling the right story at the right time will always create a higher return. Applied over time with knowledge, skills, and discipline, stories will influence the decision-making process that is key to any outcome.
Why is story powerful? The goofy thing about this is you already know. One of the reasons that stories are so powerful is they create this context for us, and they also connect powerfully to our emotions. There's a whole body of work, starting with a guy named Joseph Campbell, around the hero's journey.
So the question for us as leaders is, how do we take things like the Haid feedback? How do we take past discussion of where we're going in the future and our ability to be more predictive and flexible? And how do we make that our story? One of the reasons that stories are an extremely powerful leadership tool is because they add back context that gets stripped away through the course of our day.
He knocked on the door of the barn and he walked in, and there was an old man sitting there with a little quiver of arrows sitting next to him. And he said, "Sir, are you the person who put all these arrows in the middle of the target?" And the old man said, "Yes, that's me." And he said, "I found you at last. I've journeyed many miles to meet you. I'd like to study and learn this craft from you because you're the guru." And the man sort of looked confused and said, "Well, I can teach you, but it'll only take a couple of minutes." And the general was surprised, and so they went outside and they found an empty spot in the barn.
And the old man carefully selects an arrow from his quiver, carefully sets down the quiver, goes up to the barn, sticks the arrow in the barn, picks up a can of red paint, paints a target red. Now the reason I tell you that crazy story is a couple of reasons. It's a story about stories.
You're well on your way to creating a very powerful asset for the organization that is complete with your best, most powerful stories.
But one of the things that we do in our businesses, in marketing, in sales, in teaching, we accumulate lots of data, right? And I believe our challenge is to translate that data into stories. And I'm going to talk about for a little bit about why stories are important. But you know what? You have this quiver. Your brands have this metaphorical quiver on your back all the time. The question is, are we using our insights and data to create the arrows, the right arrows at the right time to stick into the target? If you've got a set of facts, that's the kernel. That's the core truth. And then you wrap a story around it. And that's what people connect to. That's how people make meaning.
Why do we love our spouses and our kids so much? They are the embodiment of stories. That's all they are stories. Okay, did I go a little too far there?
And I had an idea. I went to our CFO and I said to her, "When we get the check, the first check from this company, can I have the check? And I'll give it back, I promise, but I need the actual physical check." So sure enough, she called one day and said, "I've got the check," and she handed me a check for $104,000. And I've never held a check for $104,000 before. I didn't think anybody else had. So I called the team together. They thought I was nuts, but we all stood in a circle, and I asked them each to hold this check. And I just told them, this is the tangible evidence of the work that you did and worked so hard to do. And this is real value that you've created. Now, there's the story, and then there are the lessons to the story. The lessons here is that it's finding a different way to thank people and be appreciative. But it's also making connections between the hard work and what actually happens as a result of the hard work.
We as entrepreneurs, we as big businesses, we as sales and marketing people, I think the main goal for us, right, is to make meaning, is to connect to people. And I think stories do that so powerfully. And this is one of the concepts. Stories slow us down. And I don't mean slow us down that we become unproductive. I don't mean it that way. And they slow us down so we can look and see what's happening around us. We can enter and exit a conversation.
Picture you're in this beautiful Japanese garden. Everything is perfect. And you are walking along, and there's an island in the distance. And it's beautiful, it's trees and planted, right? There's a bridge to that island, but it's a zigzag bridge. So in a Japanese garden, a zigzag bridge is typically 2 pieces of granite that are put corner to corner. So if you're walking across a zigzag bridge, the idea is you slow down to take in the beauty around you, and you step to the other piece of granite and you continue across. The whole idea is to slow us down, to take in what's happening around us. That's what stories do. Stories are so powerful, and you have all of them. Just keep telling them. Thank you for letting me be your coach, and thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you for spending some time with us. We look forward to working with you, so please contact us for more information.